Alright, so um yes, I just took Judas out for a Sunday drive, and just for that, make a quick video touching on a topic which I find very interesting and needs to be touched on. I'm gonna talk about what exactly is too much power, or better yet, what power is sufficient. Right, so it's next to impossible to give one number. Horsepower, we'll talk horsepower, right? But we can give some guidelines as to what exactly will be a fair or reasonable horsepower to shoot for if your goals, right? So everyone is going to be different, but the word you're going to hear me use a lot is goals. Before we even talk about horsepower, before you even begin to consider build, I always say get a goal. What do you want to do with the car? Is it going to be a street car? Is it a circuit car, a drag car, and whatnot? If it is a drag car, what quarter mile time are you looking to run? How much? Well, that if you know quarter mile time, then you will know based on the weight of the car you want to build what sort of horsepower you'll be going for. Circuit racing has its own set of guidelines, but generally you know what time you need to run around a track, and you have a fair idea of what sort of horsepower you need. But for today, we're just gonna cover street cars. It's gonna get a very, very confusing if we try to touch everything with street cars. And let's just say you want a street car, and for instance, you just want to have fun with it. What sort of horsepower should you be aiming for? One, your budget will ultimately decide that, but assuming budget is not that big of a concern, I would say if a car that weighs under 3,000 pounds, so most lighter cars, front wheel drive, personally I think 300 horsepower. Alright, water pump is going for a car that weighs under 4,000 pounds. I would say 350, 400 for the most, but that's my rule of thumb. 3,000 pounds, 300 horsepower. 4,000 pounds, 400 horsepower. Obviously you can go higher than that, but assuming we're talking about 90s and 2000s car, here's what happens. So you just saw a clip, or you will see, I'm not sure if I'm gonna put it before or after, of Judas driving around. Judas is a 1986 BMW 325e, I think. These cars, with what it has in it, we're looking at the car probably weighs, with me in it, maybe 2,800 pounds. With what the car was driving on today, it probably, well, not probably, I know what it has, but it had like 15 pounds. So the car will have pretty much close to maybe 300 horsepower, let's call it that. It's probably around 300 wheel with that sort of boost pressure in it, and the car is a handful. That coupled with the gear ratio, the car is a handful. So goals, what do you want to do? What really happens, again, if it's all-wheel drive, you do have a small edge over the guy who's two-wheel drive, but ultimately it still boils down to that. 3,000 pound 300 horsepower car is still a very quick car. I personally feel anything that runs sub 14 seconds in the quarter mile is plenty for a street car. Right, but ultimately horsepower, it'll boil down to your goal and budget. That is, it doesn't matter if you actually want 700 horsepower, but if you cannot afford it, and then it's besides the point, right? So the whole video will be pretty much pointless. But assuming you can afford it, I usually tell people to start off with something low. So again, going back to our rule of 300 horsepower, 3,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds, 400 horsepower, and that should get most of these cars into, with a decent driver anyways, easily around a 13-second quarter mile. And to put it into perspective, that's what I believe that's what all the Corvettes run. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. And most of the Evos and whatnot from factory were in the high 14s back in the mid 2000s. So 13 seconds is very quick. Don't let the internet fool you. Going past that, generally the cars get a little bit finicky. Most 400 horsepower, most decent platforms, you can get 300 to 400 horsepower easily, relatively. Anyways, anything after that, you start going into how long can you beat on the car. Maybe it might need some dedicated fuel. Maybe you need to run some E85 just to keep it happy. In my case, SR20s do not really like pump gas. Timing levels usually have to be very low. So in my case, I have to run, if any, high boost. If I want to make any decent horsepower, I have, it's currently running on methanol. So it has a mixture of methanol in the tank. Yeah, so I want to keep this quick, short, but again, goals. And my rule of thumb is for every 1,000 pounds, 100 horsepower. And with that, you should be, again, boiling down to a Miata, right? The Miata weighs like 2,300 pounds. 220 horsepower is a rocket ship in a Miata. And just apply that. That's my easy rule of thumb when you look into calculate it. Obviously, if your pockets are a bit deeper, maybe you want to do some highway racing, you may want to maybe add an extra 100, 200 horsepower. Or at that point, it's goes out the window, right? Yeah, but for a street car, personally, down here in the Caribbean, all of you Caribbean people watching this, you will know our roads are horrible, our roads are windy. So 100 horsepower per 1,000 pounds, and I believe that is the magic ratio for building a fun, very quick street car. This car has, my car personally, it has 220, 240 treadwear tires, and it's all over the place. As you can see, most of the times, I'm just looking at the log, and I don't think I went over 50% throttle. No, over 60%. I saw 55 or so. So, and it's all over the place. So, what do you need for a street car? Not much to make it fun. Anyways, enjoy the content. Again, like I said, I'm not sure if I'm gonna put it before or after, but in any case, Judas for a Sunday drive, and catch you guys later.